And go into our order of business. Madam Clerk, if you would, let's read 7A, please.
An ordinance hereinafter, also known as the fiscal year 2024-2025 operations budget, providing revenue for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024 and ending June 30, 2025, appropriating same to the payment of expenses of the municipal government, fixing the rate of taxation on all taxable property in the city, and the time taxes and privileges are due, how they shall be paid, when they shall become delinquent, provided for interest and penalty on delinquent taxes and privileges, amending Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 2, Section 2, 267, relative to paid leave for active duty training, and to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 31, Sections 3136, 3137, 3141, and 3143, Sections 31322 and 31354.
Councilwoman Burrs, followed by Vice Chair Hill.
Move approval, sir, with my thanks to my colleagues.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? All right, Madam Clerk, this is a budget vote. Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Knoll.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley.
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Yes.
Councilman Hester.
Yes.
Councilman Ledford. Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hill.
Yes.
Chair Henderson.
Yes,
8 yeses.
motion carries. 7B, please.
An ordinance appropriating, authorizing, and allocating funds to the capital improvements budget for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Ledford. Councilman Hester.
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley. Councilwoman Knoll.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hill.
Yes.
Chair Henderson.
Yes,
8 yeses.
motion carries. Now, Mr. Chief, if you want a round of applause. We are honored by having our mayor here this afternoon. Mr. Mayor, would you like to come up and say a word about the budget that was just approved?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll say a word or two. You know, I'm not typically very long-winded, but the main thing I want to do is thank you guys. Thank you for your continued partnership, not this year, not just this year rather, but over the course of this entire term. I want to thank Councilwoman Burrs particularly for her continued leadership as Budget and Finance Chair. I know this is not an easy job or a fun one, although you do seem to enjoy it bizarrely. And there is a lot more to do, obviously, but I think we can all take solace in knowing that the work is working. Budgets reflect priorities, of course, and despite inflation and other fiscal pressures that made this a tough budget, this one does not compromise our commitment to help Chattanooga reach its full potential. With it, we're going to continue to deliver the services and responsive governance our residents deserve while advancing the goals of One Chattanooga. And this budget withstood the public scrutiny that every budget should be subjected to, and I think it's a budget that we can and should all be proud of. Because of your hard work and the hard work of my team, unlike other cities this budget cycle where we've seen so many times this year, this once again represents no tax increase for our residents, which again we should be quite proud of. And that's a result of strong fiscal discipline, good management practices, and real intentionality about our choices, about our goals and our priorities. Once again, of course, public safety is front and center. 59% of this year's budget funds CPD, CF, the fire department, the police department, and public works. And that, frankly, is a high watermark in terms of what those three departments take up in terms of our total city budget. Pay raises for first responders continue to build on the 24% raises that we accomplished in previous budgets, which of course is so important to retain our best and brightest. And then, of course, infrastructure and pedestrian safety continue to be a big priority. This is the fourth straight year with more than $10 million dedicated just to paving, more than $50 million after the passage of this budget But clearly, there's much more to do. We continue to hear about the need to accelerate that, and we will continue to do that. $500,000 for targeted pedestrian safety improvements. I know that's been very important to many of us, Councilwoman Hill, particularly you, and on top of the scheduled work that we already had. And of course, the non-sworn employee pay raise of $5.7 million is going to fund the next phase of our STEP plan and increase pay for city employees. Again, we have to retain our employee base, and we're in competition with the private market. So that's continues to be a really important priority. But finding an additional $16.9 million in capital investments from surplus funds was also a big win. And that, frankly, is just a dividend as a result of our fiscal discipline and our good management from the prior 3 years. $3 million for affordable housing, $4.1 million for parks and outdoors, $500,000 from CARTA, which is going to turn out to be a lot more important than we realized, and $2 million for roadway rebuilding. So, look, I'm quite proud of this budget. Again, wasn't particularly sexy, but it was a hard one to get done, and I think it's really important. I also just want to conclude by thanking you for your consideration of these ARPA awards. All of them further the goals of the One Chattanooga plan and offer assistance for vulnerable populations. If the funds are approved, Council will be helping low-income families get sorely needed energy retrofits for homes that are not energy efficient, which is incredibly important, particularly with the heat being where it is these days. And those programs are just win-wins. You're increasing property values. You're reducing energy bills. These funds will help create an inclusive playground at Heritage Park for kids with varying abilities. Increase community and public safety in Bushtown and Orchard Knob. Increase home ownership opportunities for working class families looking to purchase their first homes. Continue protections for families facing eviction through the Eviction Prevention Initiative, and of course, helping our efforts to create permanent supportive housing with the Aspero project on 14. So, again, I just want to conclude by saying thank you for your partnership throughout this entire process. I'm proud of our team. I'm proud of our working relationship. This process continues to get better because of our harmonious relationship, which I so appreciate, your continued partnership and that harmony. I will never take it for granted, and we will continue to make progress together towards the goal of creating One Chattanooga. So thank you very much once again.
Hold on 1 second. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say thank you for providing an open door policy regarding just our communication with you, but also specifically with the budget process. Your staff and yourself are always available. I appreciate that, whether it's a text or a phone call or showing up at an event in our district. I really do appreciate the relationship and the opportunity for you to hear what we're facing in our districts, but your response.
Well,
And I think that has made the budget process this year, I would like to say, relatively painless from what I've been involved in the past, because the communication has been solid.
well, ultimately, it's about trust, right?
It is, yes.
And I don't know, every day hasn't been, I mean, it's not always wine and roses, but when we have problems, we deal with them and we talk them out. And I think, again, I'm going to continue to be committed to that, and I know my entire staff is, and so I look forward to brighter days ahead and continuing this great relationship that we have.
Yeah. And I also, Mr. Chairman, thank Vicki and Java and your finance team. The one-on-ones are extremely important to get an overall view of the budget so that we are better informed. And I think that process should always remain in place, and it makes for a smooth transition. And Dr. Burrs, lastly, thank you so much for your leadership once again. You covered every one of our questions. You made sure they were answered by the administration, although they would do that anyways. But you stayed on top of every single item because I watched. And you were very, very meticulous in making sure that our questions were not only dealt with, but in details. And I think that is extremely important, and I thank you for your leadership on this year's budget. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Burrs.
Mr. Mayor, I think people should know that the budget process begins in November, and the bulk of the work is done behind the scenes. And since November on forward, it's been my privilege to work with a very outstanding staff that you have. Ryan particularly, we had many conversations trying to understand, trying to work things out, trying to make sure not only we were economically sound, but also meeting the needs of people. Your staff was up to the task. Jermaine, the same way. I'm the sort of person that prefers to work behind the scenes to get good things done, and it's a pleasure to do it with you and your administration because they were always up to the task. So thank you for having such a fine team.
Well, again, thank you, Councilwoman. Again, I'm very, very proud of this team, and the team had nothing but great things to say about working with you and everybody on council. So once again, thank you so much, and may it always be this way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to follow up and say, while there were many things in this budget that I did like, and of course it was sort of a repeat of last year's budget, and while you say it's not sexy, I've just got to tell you that while our paving complaints have not been silenced, they have been quieted. When Councilman Smith and I were first elected in 2013, our paving budget was $1.7 million. And over these past 4 years, it's even hard to conceive that we will have spent $40 million. It would have taken us 20 years to pave the amount of roads that we've paved in 4 years. So for that, I want to say thank you. And I know that many on this council appreciates that. Like I say, there's many things in this budget that I like, but this one is something that we fought hard to put a significant amount in paving, and it has made a difference.
Well, thank you. And candidly, we are now looking over and above the money at other creative ways that we can stretch those dollars further and be more efficient about the way they do it, because again, we know that we've still got a long way to go. So I'm proud of it as well. I'm glad to hear your perspective. You've been here a lot longer than I have, but just know that we're not going to stop. And again, we're going to continue to try to find creative ways to make that money stretch even further.
Thank you. One more, Councilman Hester.
I want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues too. You genuinely want to merge effectively toward that one Chattanooga. We see it reflected in the budget. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here.
Thank you.
This afternoon.
Thank you very much.
All right, Madam Clerk, I believe we're ready for 7C under planning.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 2708 Bliss Avenue from M1 manufacturing zone to R1 residential zone.
Oh, ho. We got a process here. Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. Y'all are way ahead of the game on me. All right, well then I'll take a motion.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no? All right, so moved. Moving now to our next final vote on 7D, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone part of a property located at 1709 North Orchard Knob Avenue from R2 residential zone to M3 warehouse and wholesale zone subject to certain conditions.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, with no objections, let's take E and F together, please.
Item E, an ordinance closing and abandoning certain sections of a public sewer easement in the 1900 block of Central Avenue, beginning at a point some 112 feet southeast of MH number S145M079, then southeast 126 feet to MH number S155D010, abandonment of a sewer easement beginning at MH number S155D010, then southeast some 24 feet to MH number S155D011, and abandonment of a sewer easement beginning at MH number S155D010, then northeast some 75 feet ending some 256 feet from MH number S145M080, tax map number 145MV011, as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions. Item F, an ordinance closing and abandoning a sewer easement in the 400 block of North Holsclaw Avenue, beginning at MH number S146G032, thence northeast 286 feet to a dead-end, tax map number 146BP004, as detailed on the attached maps.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve items 7E and F with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. All right, the ayes have it. Under resolutions, Madam Clerk, let's take 9A, please.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and his designee to enter into a lease agreement with Hope City Church, Inc. in substantially the form attached to lease a portion of the premises at 7 North Tuxedo Avenue, identified as tax map number 157GB001, to provide space for the city's Head Start Early Head Start program for an initial term of 13 months and the option to renew for 2 additional terms of 2 years each, with rent for the initial term in the amount of $7,500 per month.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve item 9A with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. So moved. Madam Clerk, if there are no objections from the council, let's take 9B through F, please, all the reappointments.
Item B, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's reappointment of Daniel Jacobson to the Metropolitan Airport Authority for a term beginning on February 13, 2024, and ending on February 12, 2027. Item C, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's reappointment of David Littlejohn to the Metropolitan Airport Authority for a term beginning on February 10, 2024, and ending on February 9, 2027. Item D, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's appointment of Richard McKinney to the Metropolitan Airport Authority for a term beginning on June 19, 2024, and ending on June 18, 2027. Item E, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's reappointment of Edna Varner to the Chattanooga Housing Authority for a term beginning on June 1, 2024, and ending on May 31, 2029. Item F, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's reappointment of Adam Kinsey to the Chattanooga Housing Authority for a term beginning on June 1, 2024, and ending on May 31, 2029.
Council, what's your pleasure?
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve items 9B through F with a proper second. With any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion does carry. Do we have any of our reappointments here this afternoon?
Edna Varner used to be, but she had to leave for a meeting, so.
Yeah, I thought I saw her here earlier, yeah. So if you are watching online, we do appreciate your service to the city of Chattanooga. Now, Madam Clerk, if there is no objection from the council, let's take items 9G through L, please.
Okay. Item G, a resolution authorizing various resolution numbers 31197, 31199, 31200, 31201, 31203, 31205, 31206, 31207, 31208, 31210, 31211, 31212, 31213, 31214, 31215, 31216, 31217, 31218, 31219, 31220, 31222, 31224, 31225, 31226, 31279, 31314, 31315, 31553, and 31784 to be amended regarding the agreement type from a federal subrecipient agreement to a City of Chattanooga recipient agreement. Item H, a resolution accepting and approving the award of unallocated American Rescue Plan funds as part of the Chattanooga Relief and Recovery Allocation Plan, and authorizing the mayor his designee to enter into recipient agreements with One Chattanooga 2.0 for the Child Savings Account Initiative for an amount not to exceed $200,000, to Electric Power Board, EPB, for the Home Energy Uplift Program for an amount not to exceed $100,000, and 3, Chattanooga Kiwanis Youth Foundation, Inc., for the Harvest Inclusive Playground, excuse me, for an amount not to exceed $75,000, for a total amount not to exceed $375,000. Item I, a resolution to amend resolution number 31197 with the Ames Center, Inc., for the development of supportive housing, to amend the agreement type from a federal subrecipient agreement to a City of Chattanooga recipient agreement for an increase of $500,000 for a new total amount not to exceed $2 million. Item J, a resolution to amend resolution number 31200 with Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise for an expansion of a purchase, rehab, resale program, to amend the agreement type from a federal subrecipient agreement to a City of Chattanooga recipient agreement for an increase of $500,000 for a new total amount not to exceed $1.5 million. Item K, a resolution to amend resolution number 31203 with Community Haven for a violence interruption initiative, to amend the agreement type from a federal subrecipient agreement to a City of Chattanooga recipient agreement for an increase of $750,000 for a new total amount not to exceed $1,750,000. Item L, a resolution to amend resolution number 31784 with Legal Aid of East Tennessee for the continuation of the eviction prevention initiative, to amend the agreement type from a federal subrecipient agreement to a City of Chattanooga recipient agreement for an increase of $326,245 for an amount not to exceed $892,245.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That was a mouthful.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve items 9G through L with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments before we vote?
to read G all over it.
No.
All right, all in favor, aye.
I do have a
Any
comment.
opposed, no. Motion does carry.
I do have a comment.
No, at the end, you can comment.
Oh, no, this was about the resolutions.
At the end of our meeting, you'll have an opportunity.
Oh, this isn't like the county, you can't go line by line?
No.
Oh, okay.
At the end of our meeting, you
Okay,
can.
pardon me.
Yeah. All right, Madam Clerk, item 9M, N, and O together as a group, please.
Item M, a resolution authorizing City of Chattanooga to apply for and, if awarded, accept a PlayCorps National Demonstration Grant for an in-kind gift for playground equipment at Washington Hills valued at $75,000 with $75,000 in matching funds from the city for a total amount of $150,000. Item N, a resolution authorizing the mayor his designee to enter into a planning and design services agreement for 2024-2025 with the Chattanooga Design Studio in substantially the form attached for a term of 1 year from July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, with $70,000 to be paid for general park system planning in 4 quarterly installments of $17,500 plus invoice reimbursement up to $900,000 for eligible expenses related to the creation of construction drawings and plans for Montague Park for an amount not to exceed $970,000. Item O, a resolution authorizing Mayor Keller to execute an agreement with Hamilton County for the Courts Community Services Program to schedule workers to conduct litter pickup on city streets during fiscal year 2025 in the amount of $60,000.
What's the pleasure of the council? We have a motion on the floor to approve items 9M through O with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Any opposed, no. So moved. All right, Madam Clerk, moving into planning, let's read item 9P, please.
A resolution approving a special exceptions permit for a residential plan unit development for the properties located at 7529 and 7611 Ziegler Road, subject to certain conditions.
Item 2024-0055. Is the applicant present? All right, thank you. Is there any opposition present? All right, Councilman Ledford, I see an applicant with no opposition present.
Thank you,
Have the floor, sir.
Quick question for the, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Caitlin, that's okay. A simple nod. We've got the correct site plan filed. Mr. Turner, you've received the updated site plan?
Yes.
Yes. All right, that's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll move to approve.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. The ayes do have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. All right, Madam Clerk, 9Q, please.
A resolution of intent for the Board of Zoning Appeals to have authority to hear and rule on variances to overlay zoning standards.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve.
Just saw it. I will have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote on item 9Q? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion does carry. Now, Madam Clerk, move into 9R.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 1 for the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga to provide community nutrition education sessions for an increased amount of $25,000 for a revised contract amount not to exceed $74,632.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. So moved. Moving now into purchases.
Good evening,
Good evening.
council. We have 3 purchases this evening, all from wastewater. The first is a year 3 renewal with RMJ Consulting for programmable logic controller services. The supplier requested a price increase of 10%. The annual estimated cost will remain at $2.3 million. The second is a blanket contract annual spend increase request for supplemental supply of liquid oxygen with Next Air LLC. The increased amount of $250,000 will bring the annual spend from $275,000 to $525,000. The third and final purchase is a one-time purchase of 3 S&C switch replacements for the amount of $405,872 for the wastewater department. The award will go to IRBY, as the best bid for the city of Chattanooga.
Move approval, sir.
We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Any questions or comments before we vote on purchase items? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, moving now to committee reports. Councilman Smith.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Ledford.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Hester.
No report.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Oh, yeah, I got a report.
Pat yourself on the back.
Not bad. It's, you know, I'm very fortunate to be able to work with the people up here on this podium. They're great, they're wonderful. They all worked very hard, and it took all of us to finally have the second reading of the budget, and we're good to go, back to work. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you. All right, Councilwoman Knoll.
No report.
Councilwoman Dotley.
No report, but I would like to say happy Juneteenth. I know it's tomorrow.
All right, thank you. Madam Vice Chair.
No report.
All right. Now, that moves us into the portion of our agenda where we do recognize persons that would like to address the council this afternoon. If you would approach the podium and speak from the podium, I'm going to ask the attorney if he would to read the rules to speak to the council.
Yes, sir. And at the end of each council business meeting, the chair will recognize members of the public who wish to address the council. Here's your rules. Each speaker wishing to address the council can only be recognized at the microphone up front for that purpose. Can't have more than 3 minutes to speak, and you can address the council only upon matters within their legislative and quasi-judicial authority and not on matters which are not under the authority of the council or regulated by other governmental bodies or agencies. You can't use vulgar or obscene language nor use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others. And you have to address the council as a whole and not make comments directed towards individual council members. And lastly, you cannot engage in disorderly conduct or disrupting a public meeting, which is prohibited by Tennessee law. and someone commits that offense if the person substantially obstructs or interferes with the meeting by physical action or verbal utterance with the intent to prevent or disrupt the lawful meeting or gathering. Having read those rules, go ahead, sir.
Mr. IT, give us 3 minutes on the timer, please. All right.
Raymond Santero here. Thank you guys for having me. It's good to know that the First Amendment is not being, 1930s, or it might be. Yes, I was here a couple weeks ago. I have a big issue. I'm torn in the city I live in, and even the country I live in, of almost being a political refugee in its own city, by way of false imprisonment. Maybe the city of Chattanooga highly endorses the arrest of an involuntarily committed person, a mentally retarded person, for lack of better words. No difference between me and a mentally retarded person at that time. I had zero informed consent, my Sixth Amendment right and my Eighth Amendment right of excessive force by way of aggravated assault while handcuffed, taser prongs, marks, chipped tooth, to be left in a cell for 3 weeks with one meal, no soap, no toothbrush, no water, except from a toilet. Hallelujah. So yeah, if that's the type of treatment the city of Chattanooga is in business of endorsing, I would vehemently oppose any funding, any more militarization of the police, all these contracts. They should just be null and void. We should not have to be forced to live in this police brutality dictatorship. We shouldn't. It's no longer protecting and serving the people. It's either I'm black or white. Maybe I've been accused of a lot of things, as I've said. Maybe that's too much, but it's either you're for the people or you're against the people. Reference, I don't know if this body's a Christ-filled panel, if everyone pledges allegiance. I know my Lord and Savior saved me, but I would reference Sodom and Gomorrah. 100 good people, that's all God wanted. 100 righteous men. Couldn't find them. Oh, I want 10. Couldn't find 10. How many people are here? We all know what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. He just wanted righteousness. It's not hard to do what's right. You could be for Israel, but you could be against killing Palestinian children. You could be for a lot of things and not against another. There is no false dichotomy there. There isn't. It's either you're for the people or you're against the people. You're righteous, you're not righteous. It's not that hard. You guys got to stand up and do what's right. There's a lot of time and a lot of lip service here, and here it is. Here this is. Actually, good thing I had last week off. I had to go down to meet my reporter at Times Free Press, and I had to go down to CNN protest a couple days ago. Talk to some interesting people there. So it's going to be an interesting time this summer, for sure. Thank you, guys.
Go ahead, Mr. Bell.
Thank you. Money Bell, the homeless journalist, the gray-haired fox man with the $1 trillion voice. 625 Georgia Avenue, 1000 Lindsay Street. I've got to reflect on the call letters of my station, CNN. Hadn't heard that since Monty Bell was a pioneer of the cable news network. Pioneer of CNN, and I can't get a news story out. I was happy to see the former city attorney, Emily O'Donnell, here tonight. I hadn't seen her since the last time she stood behind a police car, pointed me out, said that I was the person that caused her to feel fear here at the city council. Unfortunately, tonight, you have your mayor here, and I didn't bring a copy of Monty Bell's African American Chamber of Commerce, which has his name and his company name as a member of my agency, and I didn't ask him or anybody else involved to become a member of my African American Chamber of Commerce. Tonight, which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's what I got to discuss. My immediate removal of office, ouster, has been plagiarized by both your city attorney and county attorney. You have two articles here about your council representative, Kumran, that was put in a position for an ouster. There's no debate here, sir. June the 7th, June the 12th. My ouster came way before that. Mr. Attorney, I want to know how your ouster proceeded before mine. And my ouster involves you. It's a question.
Yes, sir, and I'm not answering your questions, sir.
Can't ask those to the state. They're above the law.
Thank you for your involvement. There's been too many attorneys that are not attorneys involved in my cause. How did your immediate removal of office ouster precede mine? Mine was filed on March the 13th in the circuit court. You were still in the process of putting this mock trial together with Councilwoman Kumrat. It's about you, District 6, and all of these appointments that were brought in here to my city that are not residents here. 211 billion, 34 million is for your fraud on the entire 11th Judicial District Court.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Your time is up, sir.
Anyone else that'd like to address the council this afternoon? Council, I am not seeing anyone else. What is your pleasure? So moved. We're adjourned.